want to try to help your understanding of that chapter in the text on pricing. This first slide is the summary of the discussion about markup pricing. And often you will see in your businesses, and in the one that I was in too, that the typical salesperson does cost plus pricing, where they take the cost of something and then they just put a markup on it, 20% or so, and see if it'll sell. And the whole point of the early discussion in this chapter, which culminates in this table 10-2, is the right way to mark up is to take into account the elasticity of what it is you're selling. You don't want to give away to someone a lot of value. They could turn around and sell the product for more money than you charge them. And since it's your hard work that went into making the product, you should get what you can for it, most of the value for it. So when you do markup pricing, you really ought to be using the equation that's listed here in this table in your text. And that is this one here, where the markup is -1 over the quantity 1 plus the elasticity of price. They give a few examples. If the elasticity is -2, your markup would be 100%. If you take your cost, add another 100% of your cost, and that would be your markup. But anyway, that whole discussion is a really good discussion, because I think you will find in a lot of places where you work that cost plus pricing is used. And what really ought to be used is some thinking towards, well, what is the elasticity of the product? We want to get the most value for our work. Okay, now the next subject goes into is price discrimination. First chart, whoops, I went past the chart. There's the one I want. First they have this chart, 10-1, this graph. And in this graph, they're trying to show you that if you were in a perfect competition where you have no control over the price you get for what you do, you would end up with a situation like this. You would have your marginal cost be this line right here, and that would be the price you have to take. Because you have so many competitors and you can't really distinguish your product in perfect competition, this is what you would have to accept. So this triangle up above, right there, P1A to B, would be what is known as the consumer surplus. And what that means is that you've settled for this price right here, which is P1, where the marginal cost intersects the demand curve, as it would in perfect competition. And the consumers that were willing to pay way more for that product are really getting a deal here. They are getting a way better deal than the people that are just barely coming to the party. They're almost regretting that they bought it at price near there. But up here, these people were willing to spend a lot of money on it. So it would be like you and I going to the car dealer thinking that the car was going to cost us $20,000, and we work a deal and we find out that we got away with $19,000. We would have a consumer surplus of $1,000. We were actually willing to go to 20, and only ended up having to go to 19 to get the car. So in that case, we were somebody up in here in the higher levels, and we ended up getting it for down here. Okay, so that's what the whole concept of consumer surplus is. So that triangle right there is the consumer surplus. It's the gain the consumers make when they are buying things from a very, very competitive market. Now the next market is one where there may be a monopoly. It is something that has great price product discrimination. This is something people really would like to get their hands on. It's different. And that you could find that in oligopoly, you can find it in monopolistic competition, and of course you can find it in monopoly. So in a case of something where you have an opportunity to monopolize, you can get more of the consumer surplus. And the way that works is this. We know that you will set your price where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That's right there. So the price that you would charge if you were just a single non-discriminating price taker would be $7. That's the price. You get it off the demand curve after finding where MR equals MC. Now, what we want, though, is to get as much value for our products as we can. Someone could buy it for here and find those people willing to pay 12, they pay 7, they could find those people, turn right around and sell theirs, and they could make the $5 profit instead of you. So this is where marketing comes in. Marketing people are good at this, trying to figure out a way to get the people that were willing to pay more to actually pay more for the same product with some kind of twist in it, whether it be a special packaging, some kind of special coupon, some way to get them to pay more for it than what the market will bear here for a monopoly of 7. Okay, so in this example, what they're saying is that the monopoly operating at a single price would charge, where MR equals MC, they would charge, get a price of 7. So their margin, their revenue, or their consumer surplus, I should say, their consumer surplus is going to be 7 minus 2, that's 5, times 5. Their surplus is going to be 25. And then their marginal cost, their cost would be 2, this vertical times the 5 there, 10. So this rectangle is 10. This is what they get for being a monopoly, able to set a price. They get an additional 7 minus 2, 5 times 5, 25. So their total revenue in this situation would be 35. But if they were able to find a way to repackage the product in some way so that they could get these people up here that are willing to pay more to pay more, then they could get more total revenue. And so if they were able to do that, their consumer surplus, that chunk of the consumer surplus is what they are after, and that's a triangle. The base of that triangle is 5, as you can see from 0 to 5. The base of that triangle is 5. The height of that triangle is 5. 1/2 base times height is the area of that triangle, and that would be 25 times a half, 12.5. So if they could price discriminate, if they could come up with a way of getting these people willing to pay more to actually pay more, they could make an additional $12.50 in revenue by capturing this part of the consumer surplus. And let's look at the next table, which shows us the calculation. I won't go through all the details here, but here is what I was saying. Total revenue in this, when they set a single price, is 35. That was the 5 times the 7 that we looked at on the graph. And over here, the new total revenue would be 35, the same as the old. But in addition, they would get that $12.50 from that triangle up above, which was where they were able to discriminate their price and get people who were willing to pay more to pay more. They would make a total revenue of $47.50. Now, a situation like this is highly theoretical. The chances of this happening perfectly and them getting all of that $12.50 is unlikely. But there are markets where they get a big chunk of that. They come up with ways of pricing things to get more consumer surplus into their pockets rather than letting the consumers get away with it. And here are, in this table 10.7, here are some of the ways they do it. The one we just talked about is first degree or personalized pricing, where you charge each individual the maximum amount they're willing to pay. Second degree is charging the maximum price consumers are willing to pay for different blocks, different chunks of output. Third degree, or group pricing, separate the market into different groups of consumers and charging a higher price relative to their inelastic demand. Then diversioning, bundling, and I'll let you read through all these, but you see these things every day as you're out in the market looking for things to buy. So anyway, I hope that this helps explain a little bit about what that chapter is about. But the idea is that you have this opportunity to go after some of that consumer surplus where the consumers are getting away from your market with a product they were willing to pay a lot more for. And what's negative about that, what's negative about that besides them taking some of your possible total revenue, is that they could potentially resell it themselves and take the profit that could have been yours. So anyway, I hope this helped your understanding of that. Let me know if you have any questions on the facilitator forum. Thanks.